Hey guys, this is Ben with Morrison Media. I thought today I would take you behind the scenes setting up a seamless white backdrop for our photo shoot. We're in the studio right now, and basically for anyone who doesn't know, a seamless white backdrop is, it kind of starts and ends all off camera. So everything is like even the bend, there's not a backdrop where it stops right at the ground here, but I'll actually have it bend through here, so it's kind of like in the picture there's no real beginning or end, it's all just one thing. And they just want to focus on just the pose, and they don't want any other distractions. You don't even want to see the floor in the background look different or anything like that. The other thing we're combating is we don't want any kind of shadows. We want a clean overall look, just minimal distractions. And so that's the other thing I'll show you after I set up the backdrop. I'll set up all the lights kind of how I did. So I have one over the top, I've had them on the sides. And so basically you're kind of lighting how you want the light to look. And then you're also lighting to, a way to take away those shadows is to shine a light on the shadows. Here's a good comparison. So here's the 8 foot, I believe this is about 8 feet long that I got. So that would be about not quite my wingspan's not 8 feet, but and then for the seamless white, so I think that's one of the first things is when I started doing this, trying to get this shipped, trying to get this in the studio and trying to get it set up by yourself. You can see it's double me. Okay, so here's the bar that will hold it. I'll do this end. These are just the clamps, screws that'll hold it in. As all of a sudden you realize, I don't have enough space for this. I start slamming it into the wall. And I just saw this clamp here, thank goodness. Clamp that in safely. Safe, safe, safe. Here's the other clamps. All right, we're gonna try and guess on this. Kind of heavy, not too bad. Yeah, so next I'm gonna probably raise it up and then pull it all the way out. Before I do that, I do wanna set up, I'm gonna have one light behind it and coming over. And so before I did the white backdrop up, and then I tried to set up the light over it. And it's just, again, you run into things where it's like the real world, one thing at a time, so that way you don't knock over this thing because it is pretty big. So I'm gonna set up that light, and basically that's gonna be kind of the rim light where I want it to bounce off the subject's shoulders. The counterweight on here, as you can see, this is for, I'm trying to do this backwards while talking. So if you want to raise this stand up and have a light over top hanging down, which is what we're gonna do, then the key is to have counterweights in the back. There's another one that catches the weight back here. I'll probably add even more weight, but the whole point of that is once there's a modifier on here, your light, it's gonna get pretty heavy. So some lights have controls on it. This one has a controller box. And for a while I was like, okay, since this is more expensive to have a controller box, do I really need it? And once you start actually doing these really high up, far away ones, so you'll see this one is raised up, I don't even know how high it is, 15 feet. You realize that you can't reach the back of the light and actually adjust it. So that's when these started becoming really important. Ugh. And this big studio is already running low on space because of all these giant things you need. Let's raise this up a little bit. Okay, so I think it's still on the screen. Nice. Yep, so that's about 50% right now. And we'll do it at the same thing we're filming at, which is 4,500 Kelvin. So that will shoot down and be off the back of people's shoulders. Okay, so I'm gonna do a little bit of that. So that would go up over my head, and that can go higher, but in this case, I think, well, yeah, we'll do that a little higher. It's funny how I'll like think that looks kind of straight, and I'll come back, oh, and actually, I don't know because of the angle of the camera, but that actually looks kind of straight. That's kind of bending. This will be like the reference of if I'm taking the photograph, will be around here. So basically, I'll have the backdrop come out until there to be like a smooth roll. And you know what? I'm gonna put, because again, even more safety first, just so I don't try and pull this down and pull the backdrop down and then it hits me in the face. So, okay, so it's coming out smooth so far, which is good. Oh, we could go a little bit further out, I think. Hopefully. And yeah, that would be my other thing with sandbags is have more than you think you need, because sandbags will save your life. Okay, so we have the light over top, as you can see. We have the seamless backdrop coming out. So then the idea would be, if I'm the photographer, have my camera here. If I were the subject, somewhere in the middle, like right here. So as you can see, you need quite a bit of room. It's about 14 feet across, and then we pulled it out probably even further than that outwards. And then when you're doing these, you know, just in general, any kind of photography, videography, you don't want your subject right in the background, because then they're not really separated from it. So like that's the thing where if you're just starting out and you want to know, you know, how they get that background separation, that bokeh, or, you know, just kind of the blurriness of the background, the further away that your subject is, say I'm in focus here, that's going to be more blurry here than if you're right up against it. It's all going to be in the same, you know, field of focus. Versus this is more separation. So if you hear kind of separation, that's what you think. And also just at a point too now where I'm trying to think of working distances, where if I'm the client, what would I want? And it's just more room the better. So you're like, okay, I have all this, versus, you know, if you're in a smaller space, things like that, you know, things are tighter, more restricted. This is more free, you know, and I think, and I can just tell, like, when a client is like, okay, like I have all this room, this is all ready to go, all this space, freedom, they're just a little more, it's easier to get kind of in your flow quicker, and kind of just do your own thing and be more comfortable. Now this is going to be the second light that I use, and then so to differentiate from the first, like I was saying, this light has the controls actually on it. So that's what I was saying, when people were looking for, I was kind of confused on why you would need, you know, if you have the controls up on this light right here, and then it's, you know, 15 feet in the air, you can't really go up and click, you know, to change the lighting on here, because you want to change, you know, the settings, the intensity, the Kelvin temperature, things like that. So that's one of those things where I mean, I guess it seems obvious of like, but yeah, until I actually had to use it, I just never really used it. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Need a lot of light, and I'll turn off the light in here too, maybe that'll help. There you go, maybe that helps a little too. There you go. Yeah, so you see me kind of coming to the light there. So if you were in here and you didn't, you know, your subject would be pretty dark. Yeah, so it's lighting me up pretty well. And then obviously that's casting that big shadow. So that's what I'm kind of saying is once you see this and you have these ones where you don't want it to be, you know, moody, you want the full thing clean, so then we don't want to edit out that shadow. We don't want to have to edit out that shadow in each picture. Yeah, so then the shadow, it's kind of hard to see from here, but I think it's kind of makes a little bit of sense. The shadow's kind of been eliminated. Like I said, it's a little too blue, a little too hard, but that at least shows a little bit of like, demonstrates a little bit of the idea, the concept behind it. So you want to have a main light, you know, lighting your picture well. That's just for any kind of photo. But then we don't want shadows or moods, so we kind of got to eliminate all the shadows. And then if you think of, this is probably casting, let's see, the light's hitting here, so there's probably a dark side on my face here, so we don't want that. So we want to have light coming in this way. Well, that's going to cause a shadow, so we want that way. And again, I had a main one too, just kind of overall. And then now that I'm thinking about it, I think I had one too, just behind the backdrop, kind of shooting through. So that would be like 7 lights. So it's kind of one of those things where you see the picture and you're like, oh, that's nice. And then once you actually have to do it, you're like, oh wow, that takes a lot of things, a lot of room. Yeah. All right, well, thank you guys very much for watching. Again, I am Ben with Morrison Media. I hope somebody learned something from this. I thought it was really interesting and went through a couple different growing pains to figure out how to do all this right. Yeah, so this is a seamless photography backdrop. If you're doing product photography or just more information based where you want to get across a clean picture and, you know, no distractions. I guess the key points to wrap it up: a big space, bigger backdrop than you think, more sandbags and weights and safety than you think, and probably more lights. So I would say, yeah, it was just, it's an interesting learning experience. It's fun having this studio, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. So thank you so much.